Okay, so we just talked about the crop tool just a few minutes ago, or in the other episode, depending on when you watch it. What I'm going to do now for this one is kind of show us the clone tool a little bit in terms of how do we clone things out, how do we use it to remove things we don't want from an image per se. So just to quickly here, jumping right on the clone tool, I'm going to go ahead and, well, let's say I'm going to go ahead and use, I'm going to use this picture to start us out with. Okay, for the clone tool, we have a lot of options to play with. The first thing we need to be in the available module. Make sure we click on the spot removal tool, and if we look in this dialog here, there's a couple of things we can control. It's really a brush that we're using, and we can control two things. We can set the brush to be either a clone brush or a heal brush. We can change the size and opacity of the brush as well. Let me kind of just go ahead, and I'm just gonna, let's say I'm gonna make a duplicate of this phone right here. I'm gonna make that circle about as large as the phone is and just stamp it right here. Drag it from, I'm gonna drag from the source point from that phone in, just about so. And if you can kind of see here, I'm gonna go ahead and press enter and close it and just show you for this one. This is on heal, so if you notice there the backgrounds and everything, especially once I highlight this, it's blending in rather nicely to everything that is around it. If I click on clone does something a little different. Okay, if you can kind of see here, this might not be the best example. Let me kind of see if this works. Okay, so if you can kind of see here, clone would soften the edge and everything else too, where the heal kind of refines it a little bit further. I'm going to have to click on it first. There you go. And then change this to a heal. If you can kind of see the heal there, it considers a few more things. So for example, you don't have that soft, particularly that soft halo edge anymore. The tones of this blends in. I can hide the white ring by pressing the H key. The H key for hide, if you can kind of see there. This is a clone. So if I hide this, you can kind of see how it has that little opacity thing, because it's just really bringing in, making the exact duplicate of it, where the heal, what it's doing is looking at the information below it and is trying to blend in the color information as well and making sure that it fits best within that area. There are situations to use different kind of tools, but I'm just giving you an idea in terms of how this one would function and work. Okay, I want to bring the thing back, and we press on the H key to bring it back. Couple things here. What I like to focus our attention on is there. If I highlight this and click on, there's a couple of things. The source here, this is our original. It's cloning from this area and is stamping into this area. So if you see that arrow right there, is always source pointing to the destination point. Okay. Now I'm going to erase this quickly. And let's say I want to actually get rid of something in an image instead of putting it there. Let's say I want to just get rid of this payphone right here. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller like so. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the payphone. When I click on that, what Lightroom is really doing right now is that Lightroom is automatically going to find a location that it's going to pick or sample from, or what we call our source. So Lightroom is automatically finding a source to clone from. Most of the time in a smaller area it does a really good job. In this case, not so much. So what we're going to do is go ahead and click on the source point and define it to where we like. In this case, let's say I want the source point to be between these two other phones right here. And let's see if we can wiggle room our way through to get this to work. So if you can kind of see there, pretty much that phone's gone. I can press the H key to hide it. You know, if somebody's just looking at this picture in general, they probably would not be able to tell that there was a phone there, but we know that there was. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of zoom out for us here, if you can kind of see. However, if you actually decide to use clone in this case, it would show up a little bit more, where it's just literally copying the darker patina of the travertine wall right there and applying it directly onto it. And it doesn't even do a good job blending around the edges, as you can kind of see, because the old phone is showing up. Where if I use heal, it's really just taking a lot of what the texture does in this area. But this is heal right here, and it's literally just blending it in. So if you can kind of see from this sample here, this works rather well. Okay. Something else that we can do with the clone tool as well is not only we can use to clone objects out, we can also use to retouch for instance, speck or dust spots like this as well. So I'm going to go ahead and use the clone. This time I'm really going to focus mostly on the heal tool, change the brush size here. And you can change the brush size by just using a scroll wheel on your mouse. Make it a little bit larger than the speck spot, click on it. Lightroom will automatically find an area to hide it. Let's say I want to hide these specks because they're kind of rather distracting. You can go ahead and kind of just do that from an airplane window here. So if you can kind of see him taking a lot of these highlight speck spots away, which kind of helps, you know, deter some of the distraction that could possibly arise from all of these dust spots right here. So you can kind of see there. Okay. A couple of other things. Let me kind of show you this. We probably showed you this image before. Let's say you just love this sign so much, of this this no entry sign that somebody actually decided to put a picture of a person on, stick figure of a person on there to kind of denote that they're doing some heavy lifting in there, and you want to take this sticker out. So what you can do is just come in, use the spot removal tool here. We're going to click on the sticker because we want to remove it. In this case, Lightroom picks an area. It's not the best area, so what we're going to do is go ahead. Let's say I want to clone it from like that area right there. Let go, do the heal. It works rather well. I'm going to hide this, and you can kind of see there that our things are now gone. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here. Let's say I want to do some cleanup work on this sign, especially small areas like that, some of the scratches people made to it. Go ahead and just click on it right there, and you can just kind of remove it there. By the way, if you don't see the white circle, you can press on the H key and it will show up again. So sometimes you have to control which area you want to sample from, otherwise it just sample more dust into a general area that we want. So just something to keep in mind there. Okay. And just a couple other things to note about this tool is that once you click on the close here, it just hides the tool itself. It hides all the healing spot you've done. If you go ahead and click on there again, if it doesn't show up, go ahead and press the H key. The H is for hide or show, and it will just come back right there. So you can always, let's say you want to move this a little bit, you always can just go ahead and just use the arrow on your keyboard to just make finer and minor fine tunings like that as well. So that's the clone tool in a nutshell between the two of them. I'm going to show you one or two more samples here. Picture of my friend Noemi. I'm going to go ahead to zoom to 1 to 2. She has some little speck spots, uneven skin tone there. If you can kind of see once I recover this a little bit more. So we can use the clone tool to kind of remove this. So I'm going to go ahead and use the heal, smaller brush in this case, and just click on the different spots. Most of the time, if you're doing the spots if the spots are small enough, especially like on people's faces, you can really just get away with literally just click and go. So you can just click and go ahead and move to the next spot. As you can kind of see here, I'm going to go ahead and click on a few more spots so you can kind of see, just to even out a few things. You know, these are really just honestly minor points, but I'm just showing you so you get an idea. If you're meticulous about it, what you can honestly do is use it to take out some of the stray hairs as well. Although, for instance, you can actually really just click on all these areas and just take the stray hair out. Okay, although that's probably going to be a little bit more work than we really want to, but just to kind of give us an idea and inspiration to do so, we can literally go around and just modify images, these images in ways that we probably would never thought about before. If I go ahead and hide tools now, that stray hair that used to be here is now gone. So you can really just do a lot of minor refinements to an image like that as well. Okay, so this is pretty much the clone tool in a nutshell. Just a few more things here to wrap up our concept. If you click on reset, it just takes all the spots cloning out that you make. For example, let me go to this sign picture here. This will be a little bit clearer. Wait for it to load for a second. So if I show the tool here, you can see all these spots that I've previously created. If I click on reset, it just takes everything out, as you can kind of see. Not necessarily something you want to be doing all the time, but just to let you know that you can. You know, as I said, in a sign there, or in something like here on a waffle, crunchy waffle and an ice cream there, you can really just come in and apply this concept and really just, like I said, be creative about it. For instance, we can use I'm going to try here to use the spot removal tool to remove that C from there, and you can remove this almost in portions in a way. Okay, so we're going to move that from there. And literally you can just click on different areas and highlight them like so forth and just move it. Just overlap the circles that you're cloning and so forth, and literally you can just hide or show any kind of information that you like. So it's rather kind of cool to do this, and you have a lot of room to play with. Just some certain shape doesn't work too well, especially if you can kind of see here in a circle. You don't have the ability to go in there and make tangent lines and so forth, so it might not work out too well here. But you can get an idea in terms of what I'm doing. So I'm just removing kind of almost that V thing from the ice cream. Click right there. Remove that from there. And usually when you come in here on the edge, I can go ahead and click right on the edge here, like so, and I can actually, you know, if it's a ruffle edge like this, I have the ability to just really kind of change the way how things look and align things a little bit and move things a little bit closer and change that a little bit more, versus if it was just a straight edge or a round thing around somebody's head. It's not quite as easy to do. So anyway, that's kind of a proof of concept there. If you want to kind of see the before, let me close this out. This is what it looks like before and after we have gone ahead and take away the little C thing, as you can kind of see there. So a couple things you can do with this clone tool, which is rather cool. Okay, again, I hope you guys find this helpful. If you have any questions, just feel free to email me.